Artwork, critiques, Photoshop files, and reference sheets are all available on my Patreon. Welcome to the unboxing review of the XP Pen Artist 15.6 Pro graphics drawing tablet. So those lovely people over at XP Pen got in touch with me and said, "Hey Mikey, hey XP Pen, if we send you our latest 15.6 inch versatile tablet over, would you like to review it?" And well, yes, indeed I would. So if you're interested in this tablet, then links are available in the description below, and it's worth mentioning that this is not a paid review, as I have reviewed the old Artist 16 Pro, and I can easily say that this is a massive improvement. So in the post you can expect to find things in a display ready box sporting a rainbow mandala focusing on some lush character art. The details are kept simple along the sides, and on the rear there is a repeat of the visuals, but alongside that are the product specifications. Now it's a change to that clean rainbow trim packaging design that they employed for a lot of last year's models, but still nice to see something with some solid visual packaging. This card cover slips off of the solid white box itself, which if we open it up has a black foam layer of padding, and just below that the Artist 15.6 Pro tablet itself. We'll take a look at that in a sec. Below is a card divider tray, and then in a white plastic vacuum formed tray are the rest of the peripherals. You get a nice branded black XP Pen stand that folds flat or props the tablet up by clicking out the support section, a boxy USB connection plug adapter to power the tablet, which is designed straight away to plug in and work in the USA, but it also comes packed with 3 different plug attachment options. And so depending on where in the world you live in, you get an Australian Chinese option, a European option, and the correct option. And all you need to do is fold the American prongs into the top and then slot on your plug adapter, which clicks into place. This is a great way to ship a tablet to somebody without disappointing them with the wrong plug type. Then you have XP Pen's signature pen holder, which comes in the form of a messenger cylinder that unscrews at the end to house the stylus inside. And straight away it looks like XP Pen have been busy improving the design. It looks like it has the hallmarks of a good quality stylus, but I'll go into the details about that a little later in the video. And at the other end of the cylinder you can also unscrew it to find 8 spare pen nibs. Then you have a card fold out tray that holds a branded dust cloth, an instructions card telling you to download the latest driver from the XP Pen website, a warranty card that I never use, a thank you card for choosing XP Pen, oh you're very welcome, and a drawing glove, which is a simple yet critical piece of kit designed to keep your lead fingers free to hold the pen, whilst letting your hand glide smoothly over the screen without fouling it up from your natural oils. And then lastly are the tablet instructions, which of course I'll never read. Then in a second card tray are the cables. You have a USB extension lead for the power plug, and an all-in-one multi-cable for reducing the amount of cables and clutter you need for this tablet if you might be using it on the go as well as sitting at your desktop to plug into your PC or Mac. Plus they include a HDMI to micro HDMI adapter, something which XP Pen have been including for a while with a lot of their products, and it's often a lifesaver. So GG. Then as for the tablet itself, it comes with a glass screen housed in a solid matte black plastic with a series of quick access keys and the same scroll wheel that I found on their Deco 03 model. So overall, if you grab one of these cheeky tablets, you can expect a colourful display box housing the Artist 15.6 tablet itself, a flat folding desktop stand, an all-in-one multi-cable, a USB power lead, power plug adapters for different countries, a micro HDMI adapter lead, the new 8192 pressure levels battery-free pen, the container cylinder with the spare nibs, smudge guard glove, instructions, thank you card, warranty card, driver instructions, and a dust cloth. Now, some off-brand tablets can come with all sorts of extras crammed into the box, but XP Pen tend to focus on giving you exactly what's useful in order to get going, making sure that with the HDMI adapter and those plugs, you will be able to get cracking straight away. Although, as with all tablets, I'd certainly like to see a spare pen. Now, firstly, you want to take that USB extension lead and stick it into your plug socket, and then go ahead and grab that multi-cable because the other end plugs into the clearly tagged red USB lead. And so then, knowing that the power cables are out of the way, one side of that whole situation is basically for plugging the HDMI and USB leads into your computer, and then at the other end of the cable you have a USB-C connection lead, which plugs firmly into the recessed port on the side of the tablet, both connecting it and powering the screen. And after that it's just a case of peeling off the screen protector. And so this is what the XP Pen Artist 15.6 Pro graphics drawing tablet looks when it's sitting next to some 27-inch monitors in a fairly spacious workspace like mine. It sits very nicely with my equipment, and it's got some great color saturation and sharpness straight out of the box. Although you may notice at first glance that it's not quite as bright as my main screen. However, this is as simple as upping up the brightness with the buttons on the side of the screen, down next to the power button, brightness being the only physical menu buttons on the side of the tablet, and then it was beaming away nicely. But for the sake of your eyes, do bear in mind that you might want to keep that brightness down a bit if you're going to be staring at this screen for a number of hours. I have to wear glasses now! And as well as those crisp screen colours which felt good straight out of the box, if we zoom in you can see that the monitor sits just below that glass surface, giving very little parallax at all, i.e. the cursor is right underneath the nib of the pen, with only a minuscule amount of motion delay. Now, I really like the design and feel of this tablet. It's got a really nice smooth matte slate design with a very thin profile, so it can slip into a bag alongside a laptop easily if you're going to be using it on the go. But also the materials feel good. It feels solid and durable, and I can wave it around with one hand from the corners without worrying about any flexing that you might find in some cheaper models. And on the back it's got some small top and bottom grips, and also two large running rubber strips that grab the desk nice and firmly. Although you will be wanting it at an angle in order to get a controller style grip around those quick access buttons. And that's done by the XP Pen stand. As you can see, it's designed to pack away flat along with the tablet, although you can see that it does have a raised edge along the bottom for keeping the tablet held in place. It's a hard matte matching plastic with two rubber grips on the surface, and you just need to pop through the leg section which click into the upright position. And once you've got the tablet on, you can throw some weight into it without it shifting around at all. The angle it sits at is very nice and just within the optimal ergonomic angle for most desktop use. But it only gives you that one angle option, take it or leave it, whereas some alternative stand designs do at least give you a few options to work with, and personally for me I would have liked to have seen something just a little bit steeper also be available. This tablet has a sloping matte textured surface around the edge, and also a textured surface layer of plastic adhered directly to the screen. There are 8 programmable quick access keys along the left hand edge to stop you from having to come away from your artwork back over to the keyboard, and the most important part of this is always going to be how easy they are to navigate by touch alone, so that you don't have to take your eyes off of your artwork when you're in the zone. And these do just great. They are in 2 groupings of 4, and the center buttons on each of the groupings have a different dot or dash lump protruding up from the middle, just like the F and J keys on your keyboard, meaning that your fingers know where they are even if you keep jumping from one hotkey to another. They felt nice and responsive to the touch, and I wasn't getting any of those stuck key moments at all. And as for the scroll wheel, I'm also a fan. I think really you should either have a slider bar which is very good and responsive to the touch, or simply not bother at all and go for a mechanical scrolling action like this. It seems like the same scroll wheel that's on their non-screen XP Pen Deco 03 model, and it clicks with the regularity of a rotating dial on a nice watch, but with the lightness and smoothness of touch that you're going to find on the scroll wheel of your mouse. And all of this worked perfectly well with Photoshop on my Windows PC. Now, when I first plugged this tablet in, I did notice that Windows resized everything to 150% for this particular screen size under the display settings. And in my experience when this happened with my Huion GT 156 HD, this is actually going to conflict with the pen tracking and give you a bad time. So do go ahead and change that desktop back up to 100%. It's not too small and everything is nice and crisp. And so in order to get cracking with some artwork, you will want to firstly download the latest driver from the XP Pen website, selecting the right installer depending on whether you're using PC, Mac or Linux. However, before you install that driver, a quick word of warning if you're using a Radeon graphics card like I do. You will want to actually go ahead into your task manager first, and turn off the radon settings host application, as this thing will actually stop your installation from working properly if it's running at the same time, and this will also mess up your pen from tracking. That one's for free, you're welcome. But then the actual installation is nice and simple, and after restarting the computer, I personally like to go into the settings menu first and make the front button on the pen switch between my brush and eraser, and then the second button becomes my right click. As for how I personally work, I find that nudging up the pressure curves towards the softer end gave me the best line weight response, and then I tend to set the hotkeys for the things I use most often. I stick Ctrl-Alt-Z right at the top to undo my mistakes, and then make sure that I've got some Control, Alt and Shift keys as well as an R for rotate, and then also Enter and Escape, as well as in this instance setting one of those keys to change the function of the zoom wheel to also change the size of my brush tip. And yes, you can also grab this tablet and flip it the other way around for left-handed users, God bless your souls, just by rotating the screen 180 degrees in the display settings menu, which is where you can also further adjust the tablet's contrast, brightness and color temperatures. And although I certainly was happy with those levels as they came out of the box, I did make the mistake of not double checking against my main monitor using a differently colored background image, which I'll talk about towards the end of the video. As for XP Pen's signature cylinder case, it's nice and chunky with the logo insert on the side, and it's sturdy enough to protect the contents even if you're gonna kick it around. Inside is the new model battery-free 8192 pressure levels pen, and this is easily the nicest stylus they've made so far. It's got an XP Pen logo at the rear with two types of plastic which are split down the middle with that metal band which matches the scroll wheel. The rubber section feels nice and grippy enough, and although the buttons on the side run fairly flush, there is enough protrusion and texture change that you're not going to lose its position under your thumb like I find you tend to do with their Artist 12 hexagonal stylus. It has a flared tip for a comfortable grip, and it certainly feels very nice and lightweight. As for the other end of the cylinder that houses the spare nibs, it has a metal slot in the middle to help pinch and tease the nib out of the stylus, but with this pen shape, I actually found this to be too difficult to use, and I mostly just ended up scoring away at the plastic nib without actually getting it out. And I think this might be a case of just getting one of those separate cheap metal clips that you find with most other tablet brands, because I think it would be easier to use. Although XP Pen do get bonus points for being able to store your pen so safely away, and in such a suggestive manner. Now, you will find lesser brand tablets that try to distract you with loads of bells and whistles to take your mind off the fact that it comes with a clunky pen, but it really does boil down to how good that pen to screen experience is going to be for me personally, and I'm happy to report with this one it was really nice. So as you probably know, my tablet reviews are from the point of view of an artist and not really a technical specialist, because for me it's all about what a tablet is going to feel like when you use it over time. Is it going to be helping me with my art, or do I feel like it's actually getting in the way? Well, firstly, I've recently seen a couple of less recognizable brands in the tablet market boasting that they come with 8192 pressure level pens. And although that sounds great, I do suspect they're not always giving you the whole story. Because I've come across competitors which use older technology and older model pens that aren't particularly amazing when it comes to their screen and responsiveness experience, that kind of lead me to believe they are just the older 4000 pressure level pens with a simply updated driver software to measure up to 8K. And I've also come across some cheaper Chinese tablet that have loads of bells and whistles, added extras, etc. coming out of the box, but one of the most important elements, i.e. the pen, ends up being very chunky with an incredibly tough nib which forces you to really push it into the screen in order to register the firmer strokes, and doesn't give you the right level of feedback. It might claim to have 8192 levels of pressure sensitivity, but the actual hardware you're using might not help you physically achieve that range. Anyway, this is my long way of saying that this is the best pen stylus I have seen from XP Pen so far. They did really well. When you're sitting down for a long session of drawing, you're really going to notice how well the pen registers your strokes and lines. So this generation stylus certainly felt like it was going in the direction of Huion's battery-free pen styluses, but visually with much more of XP Pen's flair. It was really lightweight and comfortable to use over time, although I do wonder if just a few more millimeters of circumference size on that flared grip would make it just as comfortable for people with slightly larger hands, but that's me looking for possible issues. The nib was right in that sweet spot of not being overly spongy, but also just giving a little bit of give and responsiveness when I started pressing more firmly onto the screen. And once I got used to the feeling of it, I was enjoying my art process. And also, unlike some other brands where you have to keep the pen tip right on the screen for any response, this one was picking up me clicking those buttons on the side even if I had it raised a good few millimeters above the surface. The screen had a very slight texture that felt pretty much like my Canvas Pro 20 and with pretty good nib to cursor placement. However, as I'd hinted at earlier, as you can see in this time-lapse video, you will go on to notice something that I discovered way too late, and that is that the saturation levels or the colour on this tablet were set to either a little bit too high or a little bit too far over to the warmer red tones. Now again, this is my mistake for casually eyeballing the colour matching with my main monitor using a mostly green tropical photograph for today's review, but it did mean that while on the tablet screen I thought I was happily painting in some reds and oranges for Rangiku's hair, you can see on the screen recording that it's coming out a lot less saturated and towards far more flatter brown colours. So do be aware that you will want to take a good moment in the display settings to reduce the screen colour temperature slightly to make sure you are producing the type of digital artwork that you expect. Ergonomically, I was relatively happy with the angle of the stand, but I am used to working at an ever so slightly steeper angle. That helps me avoid from leaning further and further over into the tablet screen as I get lost in my work, and stop me from having back or neck ache after a few hours. I do assume that if they cut more angles into the stand, it might weaken the overall form of the plastic, because it was at least perfectly firm and stable. But really, I'd like to see 2 more steeper angles coming out of that box. The buttons and the rocker ring worked great by touch, and I was happy to paint without straying my left hand too many times away to the keyboard to do something else. Although again, looking for nitpicks, I would have liked that scroll ring to have been just a bit more sensitive in the amount that it zoomed in and out of my canvas, ideally zooming in some slightly smaller increments to help me if I'm looking for a sweet spot size-wise. However, as a mechanical action, it was certainly better than a slightly unresponsive from time to time touch slider bar. Now this tablet size of 15.6 inches is right in that versatile zone that tablet drawing companies really jumped on board with last year, and I'm glad to see that they're getting better. This thing is really slim and along with the stand should slip into medium to larger sized laptop bags fairly easily, especially compared to the much deeper type of tablets you're going to get on similar off-brand models. However, this thing does not stand up on its own, so you have no way to actually use it as an upright display alongside your main monitor, which means you're not going to be playing any video games or watching any movies on it unless you find a slightly awkward way to prop it up and hold it in place. The multi-cable setup is for making use easy on the go, and apparently you can just plug that red USB power connection into another computer USB port if it's going to give off enough juice to run the screen. But personally, I didn't fancy risking it. So when people ask me, Mikey, what tablet would you recommend, assuming that they don't have the money to spend on those high-end Wacom tablets, my response is usually that there are going to be 2 main competitor brands that tend to make good stuff, and that's going to be Huion and XP Pen. And as long as we're talking about their newer line of tablet models, these are usually the 2 brands where I would choose to put my money. And with this current range, XP Pen have clearly improved on the quality, build and materials of their tablet, as well as upgrading that pen. And yeah, I would happily recommend this Artist 15.6 Pro. But again, do be aware that you want to turn off your Radeon host services in Task Manager before installing the drivers, because that thing took me ages to figure out. Oh, and one other side note that probably only applies to me and my terrible computer, but I did keep noticing moments of unresponsiveness from the tablet when I was first drawing, and every now and again the stylus would stop tracking or responding for up to 5 seconds at a time, and then suddenly lay down all of my strokes and taps at once. And it basically turned out that this was because I was running Google Chrome on my other screen, and it was so overloaded and resource heavy that it was interfering with the tablet function. So for the first time in a very long time, I actually bothered deleting all of my cached files and browsing history, and all of a sudden the tablet ran completely smoothly and all of my problems went away. So this is just a reminder that Chrome will eat up your computer resources if you don't keep it tidy from time to time. And that's not something I ever really worried about until I realized it was interfering with my drawing experience. Now, if you guys are looking around in the tablet market, you're probably going to notice that this is pretty much a direct competitor to Huion's GT 156 HD version 2 tablet, which I've also reviewed and loved. It's similar both in size, portability and its specifications, and it is really hard to pick between the two. The GT 156 HD had an excellently responsive series of quick access keys and a perfectly smooth slider bar, but the XP Pen Artist 15.6 Pro is one generation of newer technology, and their pen doesn't require charging, making it a bit more convenient for travelling around. So I think this just reaches ahead. And so a great big thank you to XP Pen for sending me the Artist 15.6 Pro graphics drawing tablet over for review. And again, if you fancy nabbing one of these, I have of course the links in the description below. Now, if you haven't already, why not come help me out, buddy? All you've got to do is click that subscribe button and ring that bell icon below the video, and it will keep you updated for more of my review videos in the future. It's completely free to do so why not? But other than that guys, have yourselves a lovely week. I'll see you for more reviews in the future, and take care.